There's absolutely nothing worse in fantasy football than simply being straight up incorrect about a player. Yes, injuries are going to happen and those suck, but when you can actually sell your friends on the idea that you were right and it's the injury god's fault, you can actually walk away with at least a shred of respect still intact for yourself. It's really, guys, the players that are out there, they're playing, they have the usage you wanted, and things still aren't going your way. These are the biggest disappointments in fantasy football land, and today we're going to break down 4 huge ones through the first 4 weeks of 2023. First up, rookie Lions running back Jahmyr Gibbs, drafted as the RB 9.5 PPR scoring, currently sits as just the RB 32 after 4 weeks of action. Guys, right now, just 12.3 expected PPR points per game for Gibbs. That is not all that far removed from backup Steelers running back Jaylen Warren and the opportunities he's got in Pittsburgh. And that is the key point here. This is not a, reflection on Gibbs being a bad football player or even the Lions, not doing a good job getting him the ball. Let's face it, 3-1, scoring the 8th most points in the league. Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson are doing a great job doing exactly what they are being paid to do, and that is win football games and put up plenty of points while you do it. That said, there are 5 very easy reasons to see exactly why fantasy managers remain all kind of stressed about Gibbs' early season production. Those 5 reasons are as follows. First of all, Gibbs, when you drafted him during the offseason, cost you a 3rd round pick in all likelihood, and RB 32 production is just not exactly what anybody wanted to see from a guy taken inside the top 36 overall selections in your fantasy drafts. Additionally, guys, the usage here for Gibbs specifically just hasn't been on par with what we've seen from former first round running backs during their debut season. Specifically, out of all the first round running backs drafted over the past 10 years who were not actively dealing with injuries to start the year, Gibbs has the 2nd fewest touches in that cohort, behind only former Seahawks running back Rashad Penny. And those 2 usage notes brings us to points 3 and 4, the fact that Gibbs really has looked impressive with the football in his hands when given that opportunity. He's posted top 20 marks among all running backs in terms of yards per carry, missed tackles forced per carry, and even yards after contact per carry. And that's just in the run game. The rookie has truly shined as a receiver, earning targets this year at the 5th highest rate among all qualified running backs. He can catch the ball, he's explosive with the ball, so why isn't he getting the ball more often? Well, when you do have a guy by the name of David Montgomery making truly the most out of those vulture-esque opportunities, you see why the Lions have been comfortable leaving their rookie on the bench more drives than not. Specifically, Montgomery has scored not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 touchdowns already in this young season, really dominating utilization as he goes. I know the common comparison has been that Montgomery is this year's version of Jamal Williams, but last year, guys, Williams actually only played more than 50% of the offensive snaps on 1 occasion and never more than 61% of the snaps. Through just 4 weeks, Montgomery already has 2 games with a snap rate north of 70%, as he is taking far more pass down work than what we saw from Williams last year. So yeah, I totally feel your pain, Jahmyr Gibbs, fantasy managers. But I gotta say, I still do think the rookie profiles as a rather great buy low candidate at this point in time. I understand Montgomery is not going to be going anywhere, God forbid an injury happens or something along those lines. But even if we don't get that as Gibbs fantasy managers, we're still looking at a player that is 1, certifiably good at professional football, 2, inside of a scoring offense that continues to rank among the league's top 10 units, and 3, the league's 2nd most run-heavy offense right now, behind only the 49ers. So yes, it'd be a lot cooler if the Lions made a bigger habit of force-feeding their rookie the ball, but I continue to believe that these factors should win out over the long term, pushing Gibbs up into upside RB2 territory, even if those RB1 pipe dreams never quite come to fruition in 2023. All right, on to the next one. Steelers running back Najee Harris, who was going off the board as the RB 14 in offseason drafts, currently standing as the RB 34.5 PPR scoring. Hand up, everyone. I drafted more Jaylen Warren than any other running back this offseason, so I'm a little bit biased here. And honestly, I would love to be able to sit here and say, I was right. Warren's by far the better football player. What is Matt Canada not doing featuring him more often? But that's not been the case in Pittsburgh. In fact, Najee Harris is inarguably playing the best football of his career as a pure rusher through 4 weeks. Whether you want to look at yards per carry, yards after contact per carry, missed tackles forced per carry, or even explosive run play rate, Najee continues to post career high marks across the board in these advanced rushing metrics. The true, real problems here in Pittsburgh have come down to this scoring offense being absolutely abysmal and Jaylen Warren taking far more pass game opportunity than we're used to seeing in past years. Overall, Warren has 22 targets through 4 weeks compared to just 8 for Najee Harris, and all these factors have combined to give Najee less fantasy-friendly opportunity than we've seen at any point of his professional career. As a rookie, only Derrick Henry scored more expected PPR points per game than Najee Harris. He rarely left the field. He was getting fed the football in the run and pass game when he was on the field. It was fine if he was inefficient because he had more than enough volume to make up for it. This fell down a little bit last year. We saw Najee go all the way down to the RB12 in expected PPR points per game. So when that inefficiency persisted, he was falling down to the low-end RB2 territory. This year, guys, go ahead and think in your head, like where could Najee rank in these expected, PPR points per game right now? I'll give you a second. Got it? 43rd. He has RB4 opportunities, so even if Najee was smashing expectations, we're talking about a guy landing in the RB3 range in fantasy scoring. Not exactly what you signed up for when you drafted him, probably in round 3 or round 4 back in August. I understand that Najee's past ineffectiveness is playing a role in his current present-day usage, but at the same time, we're talking about PFF's 6th worst-graded run-blocking offensive line, and this Kenny Pickett-led attack has been scoring points at just the 25th highest rate on the season overall. Sadly, I don't exactly expect either of those factors to improve in a major way anytime soon, especially after head coach Mike Tomlin came out and said he will not be making any imminent changes to Matt Canada's play calling and offensive coordinator duties. Sadly, guys, I think if you're holding that Najee bag, it's not going to get all that much better. I would not be looking to sell low on him at this point because I cannot imagine too many people are going to be willing to give you a gaudy price at all after seeing the production through 4 weeks. But if we can get one game, guys, just one game Najee where he falls into the end zone a couple times, maybe posts 80 total yards or something along those lines, that's when we can go ahead and pounce. So again, bad usage, bad situation. We want to get out from under this. Just try to get one glimmer of hope into the eyes of those fantasy managers in your league before you really go out of your way to sell what looks to be a depreciating RB3. All right, next up now, we have Falcons tight end Kyle Pitts. Was the tight end 6 in average draft position back in the offseason, currently standing as just the tight end 30 in half PPR scoring. Hey, there is a scenario here where Pitts is just not himself. Arthur Smith has hinted that he is playing through some pain. He had the knee injury last year, and there's even been clips, notably a couple weeks ago, where he was running deep open down the field, but just didn't seem to have that same explosiveness and long stride speed that made fantasy managers fall in love with him in the first place. All that to say, guys, he's still been out there on over 2/3 of the offensive snaps in Atlanta this season, and they clearly think enough of his health to continue trotting him out there as their presumed number 1 tight end. I say presumed tight end 1 because so far this season, none other than Jonnu Smith actually leads the Atlanta Falcons in receiving yards. What a time to be alive. But guys, it's not just the 4-week production that has my head in a pretzel when trying to figure out just how high Pitts' ceiling, or even floor for that matter, is the rest of the way. It's the reality that this Falcons passing game is far less condensed than what we thought it was going to be just a few short weeks ago. Overall, each of Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Mac Hollins, and Jonnu Smith have between 17 and 22 targets on the year. This remains a run-first offense, and we're splitting up the few remaining targets between 5 separate parties. It's tough to expect any of those players to provide consistent high-end fantasy production. And oh yeah, I haven't even talked about the complete tragedy that is Desmond Ridder under center. PFF's single lowest graded quarterback. He is on pace to break 2019 Jameis Winston's 10-year record for most turnover-worthy plays in a season. It has been brutal in Atlanta in terms of efficiency in terms of volume, and sadly, I don't see those things turning around for Kyle Pitts in a major way. If you are in some of those 8 or 10 team leagues, I don't think it's the craziest idea, with no keepers involved, to let Pitts hit the waiver wire in favor of guys like Jake Ferguson, like Luke Musgrave, like Dalton Kincaid. That's how sad things have gotten at this point. So maybe in 2024, maybe Taylor Heineke can save us all in 2023. But for now, guys, not expecting a meaningful bounce back for Kyle Pitts in the year 2023. And finally, we have another tight end who has scored even fewer fantasy points than Kyle Pitts. Yes, I didn't realize that was possible as well. But of course, I'm talking about Eagles tight end 1, Dallas Goedert. Carried a tight end 7 ADP going into the year. Just a tight end 37.5 PPR scoring after 4 weeks of action. Things have gotten bad enough that Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni even felt the need to give Goedert a public endorsement. Specifically, Sirianni said, "Trust me, I promise you, he's still part of the plan of wanting us to get him the football. We need to get him the football. Sometimes there's a dry spell in there too. That's what's kind of going on right now." Yes, there is a dry spell. Fantasy managers fully realize this. The question is whether or not that will persist or not, because Jalen Hurts in this 2023 Eagles offense seems more than willing to simply feature A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith ahead of everyone else, Goedert included. Specifically, guys, only the Raiders with Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers have condensed a larger combined portion of their team target share between their top 2 wide receivers than what the Eagles have put forward with AJB and Smith through the first 4 weeks of action. Good news though, Goedert managers. I do think that unlike Kyle Pitts, this situation should correct itself to an extent moving forward. I don't know that we're going to see Goedert, all of a sudden become this weekly must-start top 3 option at the position anytime soon. But similar to George Kittle, these duds are just a reality in an offense with so many playmakers to go around in a group that also wants to run the football plenty. So again, nobody is debating Goedert's standing as one of the best real-life tight ends in the league. It's just taking this new look Eagles offense, still adjusting to life without Shane Steichen, a bit of time to fully get their top 3 playmakers involved in the passing game. Goedert is a great buy low candidate right now who should get back to providing mid-tier tight end 1 production more weeks than not moving forward. Let's not completely overreact to what has admittedly been a bad 4-week sample here. All right, guys, that's it from me. But if you want to learn more about some additional players who have been objectively letting their fantasy managers down in the early parts of 2023, head on over to fantasylife.com. You can check out my article with far more examples, along with breakdowns on whether or not we should expect the tides to turn anytime soon. And I also want to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments below what players you felt particularly let down by over the first 4 weeks of 2023. Maybe not for these players, but at least for us, guys. It remains a great day to be great. Good luck in week 5 and beyond. Don't be afraid to make a great fantasy football play.